If you're running an architectural practice, there are some myths that exist in the industry that have got to change for you to succeed and put the money in the bank that you deserve. My name's Ray Bryan, I'm CEO of Archibiz, and we've been working with architectural practices for over 7 years. And the way that you think makes a huge difference to how successful your architectural practice will be. But there are a lot of myths around in the architectural industry, and it's my intention in this video to get rid of some of those myths and really get you prepared to run a successful, profitable, an architectural practice that really delivers what you want, which is certainty of income, workflow and impact. You want to be doing good work in the market, in the built environment, so that you make a good impact. But these myths they're rampant in the industry, and we've got to change that to make sure that you get the outcome that you want. So these myths fall into a number of different categories, and the first is that it's good architecture that leads to good business. So it's all about the architecture. And you only have to look at architectural practice websites to see that it's the architecture that is front and centre. Big pictures of buildings on the website, very little text, beautifully designed, but do they really tell the story of your architectural practice? And people want more than just a good design. They want an architectural service that delivers on all sorts of fronts, that mitigates risks, that meets budgets, that meets timescales. So good architecture is absolutely what impresses architects, but it's not necessarily what impresses the clients. And it's the clients that you're looking for, and it's the clients that have the money to pay for the good design that you want to do. So it's not that good architecture needs to go away. You need to do poor quality work. You must do good quality architecture. That's your ticket for the game. But it's not enough. You need to run a good business in what we call the 4 Ps area. The practice itself, you need to run your projects well, you need to run your people well, and you need to make sure that the perception of your practice in the marketplace is what you want, so that you attract the right clients. You need to do more than just show pictures of buildings, because I'm afraid that good pictures of buildings, lots of people can do that. Lots of people and lots of architects will do something relatively similar to your designs. So you need to do more. You need to run that good business and create the confidence that clients need to give you their business and actually give you their money. The second thing is architects tend to say they're misunderstood. What's the value of architecture? And that's a recurring theme in the time that I've been working with architects. Sometimes it's really hard to get an answer to the question, so what is the value of architecture? And you can't blame the clients for not understanding what you do. Okay. And I believe that every sale begins with a problem. You are there to solve someone's problem. And unless you fully understand that problem and you spend time looking into the problem and explaining to people how you solve those problems, then you're going to be one of many that can provide an architectural design that looks good, and maybe in a floor plan that looks good. There's so much more to the value that architecture provides. And if you want to get the full price for your service, then you need to expand that story and expand that understanding of the client, so they really know what they're getting. They're not getting just a design. They're getting someone who's going to control a process. They're going to get someone who's going to mitigate risks. They're going to get someone who keeps projects on time and on budget. Those are the fears when a client is starting out in the journey of creating a project and looking for an architect. They want to make sure that they are being understood. Okay, it's not all about you as the architect being understood. It's the client being understood, and to the point where they think that you will be the best architect to solve their problem. And when it comes right down to it, clients buy two things. They buy confidence and they buy perceived value. So confidence that you can solve the problem that they've got, and perceived value that you're not going to effectively rip them off. And selling the value of architecture is something that we in our Master of Business for Architects course, that's something that we focus a lot on, because getting the right fee for your service is absolutely vital. And not being in a race to the bottom, but really to position yourself in the marketplace where you need to be. You may want to be the Rolls Royce of architecture, that's fine, or you may want to be the other end of the scale. You want to be the Suzuki in your area, Suzuki type architect, or you might want to be in somewhere in the middle, like the Ford. Whatever it is, you need to be clear on what that positioning is. And positioning is really important. So positioning falls into really 4 categories. Product, what does your product look like, and does it fit with that positioning that you've got? The market, are you clear on who your market is? And the idea that you serve everyone is not a good positioning position, because although you cast the net wide, people don't know who you are and where you fit in the market. So get the product right, identify the market, and get a price that suits that market and that product. And then the 4th item positioning is service. So you need to provide a service that's consistent with the other 2, with what the market needs, that's consistent with the product, the price and the service, all fall in line to give you a good positioning in the market. And it's your job to make that understood. It's not the client's fault if they don't understand who you are and what the value is. It's that's your job. And architects are very good at speaking to one another and saying, the clients don't understand. Well, help them to understand. And quite often the way to do that is stop being a technician. Okay, so the technician is the person who answers the questions. So you've been trained for years and years to be an architect, and you want to be an expert. You want to be the person that has the answers. But quite often when you're in a situation where you're helping people understand and you're helping solve problems, the key is the questions you ask, not the answers that you give. So the quality of the questions that you ask when you're dealing with clients, absolutely vital. So going deep and understanding the emotional side of the problems that your clients have, and not rushing to solution, not very quickly saying, I've got the answer to that. It sounds like something I've done in the past. You're actually shortchanging the client if you do that. Okay. They want to be heard. They want to be, there's a really odd phrase that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And you show how much you care by asking good quality questions. And as I say, going deeper and trying to get to that emotional layer, because people do buy in an emotional space. They've got to feel good about their purchase, particularly architecture and creating a new project, because it's an expensive, very expensive undertaking. So the key is to have the mindset of the leader as well as the technician. You cannot be a full practice owner and get the full benefit if you constantly think like a technician. You've got to think like a business owner and a leader, and that involves typically the answering of a lot of questions. And that leads to the next myth, which is that sales is a sleazy activity. Okay, you've got to change that mindset to sales as an absolute essential. Okay, and it is the word sales, not business development. And some architects resist the feeling of sales, because if you say, what are the words that come to mind when you think of sales? They say sleazy and double glazing salesman and pushy and hard and cold calling and all of those negative concepts that revolve around sales. And is it then any wonder that you struggle to sell sometimes and struggle to convert? So if marketing is the process of developing leads and bringing in inquiries into your business, then the sales process is converting those leads into signed up projects. And you need to do both. You need to learn how to market and you need to learn how to sell. And as I say, that we cover this in great depth in our Master of Business for Architects, our MBA, fast track product. And the best way to engage with that is to reach out to me, Ray at archibiz.global, and let's have a chat about your practice and how we can best help you. But sales is absolutely essential, and it's important that you learn the skills of selling. One of the key areas in this is how you present your proposals. We find too many architects love the briefing meeting and they get the client in and they're speaking to the client about the project and how excited they are. Then they spend time putting things together, putting a proposal together that they call a fee proposal. Okay, fee being all about money. So you wonder why the client is focused on money when you send them something that's a fee proposal. And as I said earlier, selling is all about solving someone's problem. So your job, if you like, is to build a bridge between someone's problem and your solution. Okay, that's what sales and marketing is about. And I would strongly encourage you to reconsider even the term fee proposal, because fee proposal, big focus on price. Whereas if you call it something like a client offer, then that immediately says it's an offer to solve a problem. And it's all to do with the client. It's not all to do with money. But the most important thing is that you present that proposal to your prospect or your client. Get them in the room, take them through the proposal, see where they're excited, where they're interested. Because people get excited and interested about different things. We use a model called think, feel and know. So you get thinking people who want lots of data and time and more information. You got feeling people who want stories and colour and emotion. And then you want the knowing people, or there are the knowing people who just want to cut to the chase. Let's just get to the nuts and bolts. And depending on who you're dealing with, you can alter your presentation of your proposal to meet those different. So that's think, feel, know, and presenting your proposal. It's part of selling. Selling is essential. And I often say selling is a bit like being a stand-up comedian. You need to practice. You need to get it right. You need to get the stories right so that you can communicate in a consistent and meaningful and persuasive way so that you stand out from your competition. Chances are there are more than one architect who can solve the problem of the client sitting in front of you. But you want to set yourself apart. So you set yourself apart by running a good business, but especially understanding sales and the sales process. What is it that gets people across the line? You know, who is the individual that is sitting opposite you, and what's the best methodology for convincing that type of person? Then we've got a feeling that architecture is somehow hard, in a hard industry. You know, I would say that the product and service of architecture is very complex, and it's changing all the time and would appear to be becoming more complex. We can acknowledge that. But there are other industries that are really much worse. You know, as an architect, you're typically sitting in a nice office, Monday to Friday, maybe you do some weekends or evenings. But there are other businesses that are 7 days a week. I ran a sandwich business as CEO, and we were a 7-day-a-week business, 15 vehicles, huge geographical area that we covered, and we had to deal with broken down vehicles. We had to deal with snow, and we had to deal with people not turning up for work, and raw materials not showing up, and dealing with a workforce that quite often spent their day putting slices of tomato onto a conveyor belt of sandwiches as it went past them. So yeah, there are industries that are worse, and architects are very good at, let's call it complaining to one another. It's difficult and it's hard to get people, and clients are difficult to deal with, and costs are rising. Welcome to the world of business. It's not easy. And I drove past a Pilates studio today in an area that I used to live. Not there anymore. The shop is empty. So there's a lot of pain, a lot of tears. That was obviously someone who was passionate about Pilates, kitted out a whole studio. But treat your business seriously. You don't have a right to exist as a business owner, as an architect or any other kind of business owner. You've got to get this good business right to underpin the obvious skills that you have as an architect. There's a big myth in architecture that architects don't make money. You know, we work really hard, we don't get well paid, and there's no money left at the end of the day in the business. I can tell you that's not true. Your aim as an architectural practice owner should be to be paid a market rate salary for what you do. Why would you work for yourself for less than you would get paid working for someone else? And in addition to that, the business should make a profit. Ideally in the range 15 to 20% of the revenue of the business. So 15% of your revenue should be profit left over at the end of the day. And that profit is for a number of different reasons. It's not all to go in your pocket necessarily. Some of it should to reward you for the risk you take and employing people and the capital you invest in the business. But you also want money for a rainy day when things aren't maybe quite so good. You need money for investment, to buy new equipment, new software, to hire people at a time when you've got time to train them and develop them, and you're not rushing to get people into your business. So you need money in the bank to cover those costs. And I would strongly encourage you to look at profit as an essential, not a nice to have. And again, in the MBA, we speak about finance in detail, but how you prepare a budget, how you manage projects so that you can get the margin from those projects that you expected to get and which you deserve to get if you do really good work. So financial management is really important, and architecture is often driven by two legs of a three-legged stool: the clients and the work and the deadlines, those things. Clients and work, someone needs to look after the business as well. That's the third leg of the stool. So the fact that everybody's busy, the fact that you've got lots of work, that's no good if you're not generating profit at the end of the day. And the fact that everyone's working hard during the week doesn't guarantee that you're going to make profit. You need to demonstrate that on a monthly basis using your finances, effectively your scorecard. And the game of business is you need a scoring system. And in architecture, whilst the product and service is very complex, the business model, what we call the business model, is quite simple. You have hours and you turn those into invoices and money at the end of the day by doing good architectural work. So managing that process of transition or transformation from hours into money is absolutely vital, and you need to have a scoring system or a financial reporting model that gives you the information and the insights that you want. And what we say you need from your financial reporting are actionable insight. So insights that help you get better, progressively better. What's working, what's not working, which trends are improving and which are slipping behind. And in the Fast Track MBA, we cover all of those and explain in very simple terms how to have a set of financial reports that you look at monthly just for an hour. A meeting once a month for an hour is all you need to get a real handle on all your aspects of the business. As I said earlier on, the 4 Ps, the practice itself, are you making money, is it going well? The projects, are you getting the margins you thought you would? The people, are you utilising the people that you've got in the most efficient and effective way? And the perception of the business. Is it perceived correctly in the marketplace? Is it perceived well internally? So when your staff are out there speaking to people, do they tell the story of your practice in the correct way and in a consistent way and in a way that will drive business to your practice and differentiate your practice from others in the marketplace? Because as I said earlier, there's probably lots of people that can do the kind of work that you do, maybe not quite as well, but you've got to help the client differentiate, and you've got to add more into the mix so that the client will favour you as ahead of other people. And then the last one is architecture is different. And I was on a panel once many years ago when an architect said the conference was about the business of architecture. There were 300 architectural practices in the room, mostly small, mostly probably struggling. And we were there giving our opinion. And I had one of my clients with me, and we were speaking about how to improve an architectural practice. And there was an architect there, an older architect, took the microphone from at one point and said, what you people have got to remember is we're not a business, we're not an industry, we're a profession. Now, I think that's a myth. Architecture is a business, it is an industry, and it's got to work to some of the same rules as other industries and businesses. Because if you don't think like a business, then the chances are it's hard work. There's a mindset develops of we don't make money, and if you work hard, it's all going to work out in the end. And you speak to other people in the industry who tell you, well, no, it's really hard to make money. It's not easy to make money in an architectural practice, but my encouragement to you is control the things that you can control. Control your business right at the beginning. It's good business that leads to good architecture, not the other way around. And in our fast track MBA at Archibiz, over a 6-week period, we'll teach you how to run an architectural practice properly. And that will stand you in good stead for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Fantastic investment. So there will be a link below to the information on the fast track MBA. My name is Ray Bryan, CEO of Archibiz, and I look forward to seeing you on future videos. But get rid of those myths. Architecture is a business. Just do the business bit right.